What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Bronze Dad Plays, where I have had the fantastic opportunity to play Amazon's upcoming MMO, New World. This video is going to be all about my thoughts while I've been playing the closed beta. I've picked up enough information in the first 20 levels to really understand some of the pros and cons of where Amazon is at this current state. Now, we've got months before this game actually launches, so there's plenty of time here to change aspects of the game, tweak numbers, and start to dial things in for the regular audience. And some things we'll have to wait and see. The things I will not be going into on this video are, number one, the story. I've been playing a lot of this game while I've been on stream, and I don't pay attention to the story when I'm on stream. I don't want to comment on that and give you a negative impression that's unfair. So if you want to know about the story, go find somebody else's video. Well, I need the watch time. Watch this video, then go find somebody else's video. Cool. I also won't really be commenting on PvP. There's a couple things about the combat I'm going to talk about that relate to PvP, but in general, I did not opt into PvP for this closed beta. I wanted to play and enjoy the game and enjoy the world and have fun, and PvP sometimes can be anti-fun. For all the things I will be covering, check out the chapters in the description. Jump to whatever you want to jump to, or help a brother out, watch the whole video. But first things first, what is New World? New World is Amazon Studios' first attempt at an MMO. So they're taking a fantasy RPG, applying a whole big world around it, and having fun with players. That's kind of the best description I can give you, because if you go to Google and you search New World MMO, you get about 3 sentences, and that's the entirety of Wikipedia. Even New World's website doesn't tell you what the game is about. It'll tell you how to pre-order, and it will tell you why it was delayed, but it's not going to give you a story synopsis or why to play. If we can't talk about the story, let's at least talk about the world. The world is beautiful. The world is there for you to walk through and own. The character you create is able to interact with everything from the second the prologue's over. That means the very first rocks I see on the beach, I can mine. I see a bush, I'll take the wood. Hop in the ocean or the river, there's some water. You can gather almost everything in front of you with the right tools and skill level. You can see the trees falling as other players craft. You can see the stumps left over by a whole team that came and wiped out the forest. There's breadth to the world, and it was designed to be explored with little nooks and crannies everywhere, a fantastically detailed topographical map, a lot of reason to go find all the little side quests that take you to every little spot. There's chests everywhere, so you are encouraged to go find them and gather loads of supplies, that some of which you can really only get from chests in the early game. Early in the game, you're at little forts, then you're quickly moved to bigger cities, and you make your way across the world. I'll talk about how that world is broken down a bit in the progression systems, but just understand that it feels lived in, it feels dense, and it feels like it's been interacted with by your surroundings. What about the combat in that world? Combat is very fluid in New World. You can have up to 3 weapons equipped, each of which have their own skill trees. Each weapon type plays differently, and the game is very deliberate about giving you each of those weapons early on in the game so you can try them out and get accustomed to how they feel, how they play, what kind of skills you want with them, or whether or not you even want to bother with that weapon at all. Sorry, staffs. Combat is fairly quick and responsive, and basically every weapon has both an attack and block coming that you're going to need to use all the time if you don't want to die. You can dodge. It's definitely inspired by the Dark Souls type of combat, but not nearly as hard. You've got 3 skills available to you at any time, but by swapping weapons, you also swap skills. So at full capacity, you've got 9 skills available. It's definitely streamlined for the casual audience, but it's not a casual combat encounter. You've got no lock on, you need to block and dodge, so it's just reaching not the typical MMO player. They're not looking for you to have 37 skills available all at once for very specific scenarios. They're looking for you to stat into what you enjoy and run that rotation. There is a little bit of clunkiness, especially with the slower weapon. I noticed that You can animation cancel from your first attack in a combo, but the second one you cannot. I also noticed that if you go into a heavy attack, you're stuck. As soon as you initiate a heavy attack, that's it. I hope you hit your target. The heavy attack does have an advantage that it can break shields, but I've got skills that can break shields as well. And let's touch on those skills again for a moment. Every weapon has 2 skill trees in it with 3 skills in it each. These skills can be enhanced, modified, changed, what have you, based on additional passive benefits, but generally you have 3 skills equipped for that weapon out of a possible 6. By default, these are on your Q, R, and F keys, which is a little strange of a setup, but not too hard to adjust. What I generally opted for was either a hammer or sword and shield as my primary weapon for when the enemy gets close, and my secondary weapon was a hatchet. On the hatchet, I skilled into ranged attacks, so I could throw my hatchet, aim it, I could throw it very quickly without aiming, and I could throw a heavy throw that's going to break shields. If the enemy gets close enough, I switched to the sword and shield, and now I've got 3 new abilities, including a 360 spin, a shield bash, and a leap attack. This gave me a wide variety of ways to deal with individual encounters or multiple mobs. And that's when I realized there was something a little funky in the water. So I mentioned those 3 keys, Q, R, and F, as your default ability key. Whatever skills you put into the Q slot share a cooldown across all weapons, and not a global cooldown. Whatever cooldown you activated from a skill is applied to that slot for all other weapons. What this means is when I threw my hatchet, I had a 5-second cooldown on any abilities tied to the Q key. Meanwhile, on my sword and shield, my Q key was a 360 spin. That attack has a 25-second cooldown. So that means even though my hatchet throw should technically be available after 5 seconds, it's not, because my 360 applied that cooldown to everything in the Q slot. I wonder if this is Amazon's intention with the design, so that, certain attacks that have additional functionality or additional damage put other attacks on cooldown. And in theory, this could be a good design choice depending on how they execute it. But I quickly discovered that probably isn't true. You see, when I did my aimed attack with my hatchet, I found that was doing the same amount of damage as my 360 attack with my sword. And even if I didn't want my 360 attack on Q and say I chose a leaping dive instead, which is a single target, slightly ranged attack, just like my hatchet throw is. That has a 25-second cooldown and does the same amount of damage as my hatchet throw with a 6-second cooldown. This is a really strange design decision, and what I ultimately fell into was a rotation where I opened by using all 3 of my hatchet skills, then rotating to my sword. That way, if I needed to use a sword skill, they would be available fairly quickly. However, from a pure DPS perspective, it made sense that as soon as that cooldown was up to switch back to my hatchet and use the skills on my hatchet. It was doing the same amount of damage, and I can get the skill back faster. The only reason I had to even pull out my sword and shield was the fact there was a shield and I can block stuff better than a hatchet. So I don't love the way this is laid out, and you can switch your skills on your hotbar at any time, so it's not like they're intentionally choosing a specific key slot to have more or less cooldown or balance all the weapons' Q attacks against each other. Any skill can be in any slot, but for whatever reason they override each other's cooldowns. I'm not sure why Amazon went this direction, and I hope they either compensate by removing that feature or by increasing the damage based on cooldown. I totally belabored that point, but it's kind of like in Anthem when everyone found out that high level weapons actually make you weaker. It feels like one of those things. Amazon, seriously. I know that was a long point, but let me sum it up like this. Combat is fun, combat is fluid, and combat is unique compared to other MMOs. However, in that uniqueness, there are a few balance issues that Amazon's going to need to work. The progression. Everything has a skill bar. Everything levels up. We're talking about every weapon has its own skill trees. We're talking about every town has levels. We're talking about the faction you join has levels. We're talking about whatever territory on the map you're battling in gives you levels, which give you buffs, which stack with diminishing returns for more buffs. So the longer you're in an area, the more buffs you have. But then there's a soft cap to that, so you're encouraged to go and level up in other areas. But then if you're playing the faction missions with the PvP, you want to specifically aim for one specific area, so that way you can topple the political stance of that area and eventually go to war with them, so you can take it over for your faction. Everything has progression in this game. It's pretty crazy to see. Everything's leveling up and they keep you on that loot treadmill. You have every single type of crafting available to you on a single character. So I was spending so much time going and gathering all of the materials I would need, going and refining them all, getting levels on every single one of those gathering skills, getting levels on every single one of those refining skills, and then taking those to the crafting skills and making just boatloads of swords, just so many swords. If you are satisfied by being able to max your character out and have everything done by you, because you got the hours and you want to play forever, make it happen, Captain. And it's balanced out by the fact that gold really isn't a thing. You can't sell items that you pick up out in the world. You can salvage them for pieces and then craft that into something you can sell. But really the only place you're getting gold is quests or the auction house. So it's a very limited and tight economy. We'll see where the gold sinks are at endgame, but it feels like they took a Path of Exile type approach, where the crafting ingredients are going to matter more than the gold. All that said, not only is the progression everywhere, but it feels like you're heavily encouraged to participate in all the pieces. And if you don't want to participate in a single piece, it's okay. There's other things for you to do. What about questing? Questing is the backbone of every MMO. You want to go all over the world and discover. There's a couple things Amazon did right with their questing system. Number one, the journal's fantastic. The little things like how it animates from page to page and how it pins onto your window and how it tracks the quest over time and how those quests are really multiple quests in one. You know, old school WoW where you'd visit 3 people and talk to them all. One would tell you to hunt boars, one would tell you to come back with boar skins, and another one would tell you to get some fruit off the ground from the trees where the boars live. And you're like, I get it. Well, Amazon went ahead and just put all 3 of those in one quest. So most quests consisted of killing zombies, getting items from the zombies, and looting the crates around the zombies. That's one quest. Do it all, then return. And so it streamlined what the quests really need to be. I got lost in all the side quests. I picked up all the quests to improve the town projects, which, by the way, there's another progression system. The town can upgrade. I got sidetracked with all the quests for my faction. I got sidetracked with all of the little random quests. I still don't know where to kill 10 rabbits. Amazon, where are 10 rabbits? I don't know. And they didn't tell me, but apparently there's multiple campaigns. You've got yellow quests and blue quests, yellow being the main story and blue being the side quests. And at one point, the yellow quests diverge. You can move on to the second town, or you could keep working in the first town and take on some harder bosses, explore more areas you haven't gone to yet. Like I said, I'm only like level 20, but there's a lot for me to do. And that's not something you say about most MMOs that hit the market. Most MMOs are content drought. They just don't have the 10 years of content that World of Warcraft came up with. They don't have the experienced developers that are able to pump out all the different variety of quests to fill the time. There's a lot to do in New World, so I don't see that here. But with the lack of experience Amazon has, there are some glaring issues. Right off the bat, once I got to the first town, they make me run across the map, down this windy hill, across a river to do one quest and run back to the city. Not too bad until the very next quest. I ran the same exact pathway, but this time a little further. That really should be chained together. We saw this when World of Warcraft launched. We saw quests that were sporadic and dispersed, and you were running in different directions on the map. And over time, those developers learned to chain the quests together and make things a better hub, a better theme park. Amazon's developers haven't learned that lesson yet, so there are some glaring issues with how the quests laid out or what order you complete them in. For my money, these are easily fixed. Move the quest progression from one quest to the next without having to return to town, and you've solved your chaining issue. But I don't know how prevalent that is in the end game, so we'll wait and see there. Amazon also fails to provide enough information on the quests. Now, these could be beta issues, but when you need to fetch an item and return it, the marker doesn't return to where you need to return it. It stays at where you need to fetch the items, so I hope you remember where you came. In addition, these NPCs can be on multiple levels in most cities, and the markers just don't do a good job of telling you that. Even the quest text, it doesn't always tell you where you need to go or exactly what you need to do. Where the hell are 10 rabbits? But I don't think they do a bad job here. They just need to improve. And again, they could probably improve this by the time the game launches. So, does it suck? Does New World suck to play? No, it's very fun to play. It's a very refreshing MMO experience. I thoroughly enjoyed my time playing it on stream and off, and I look forward to continuing to play up until I'm locked out of the beta September 4th. I'll probably make another video or two with my progress on and how my feelings have changed over time, but honestly, it's a fun game. Min-maxers, hardcore players may have some issues with it. The balance issues I discussed earlier with the combat, the lack of voiceover for the story, they can pull you out of the game, especially if you're an experienced MMO player and you've become accustomed to what World of Warcraft, Black Desert, and Final Fantasy XIV have offered. It's hard for a new MMO to compete. So really, I don't think the question is, does it suck? I think the question is, will it survive? MMOs are a tough market. World of Warcraft subscriptions have rapidly declined over time. Final Fantasy XIV continues to be strong, but a strong second place. This game is most comparable to Black Desert Online in how it functions and how it feels to play, and Black Desert does maintain an audience. Much smaller than its competitors, but it does maintain an audience. But the biggest question mark is really, is Amazon gonna care? I think it'll survive if Amazon puts in the time, the effort, and the money, and the developers learn. But we just had Crucible launch, and Crucible won't survive. So we're talking about a developer that already is struggling. I think if the developers put in the time and energy, and I think if they can find a way to appeal to the hardcore players just as much as they're appealing to the casuals right now, this will be a good game. But only time will tell. So I'm going to wrap up my time with the closed beta. I look forward to giving you guys more information in future videos. And until then, make sure to do the YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We'll see you next time. Warrior Disco. She's coming for me. I see her coming for me. For me. For me.